We are here with LEX 18's Keith Farmer to break down the post-Bahamas reaction. It was a very eventful 4-game stretch for the Kentucky Wildcats. The Cats go 4-0 down here in Paradise. A couple absolute bloodletting victories for the Cats. Today was actually the closest one against the Bahamian National Select team. We're going to start with a message from our friends at Port Royal Plants, a Kentucky proud product that is grown, processed, and manufactured in Kentucky because your mind and body deserve quality products you can trust. Visit portroyalplants.com to learn more and try out their products. With the summer months, definitely check out Port Royal Plants CBD, natural tick, mosquito, and bug spray. Keith, we're down here in Paradise. We had a great afternoon. We got work aside. We were jumping off rocks and swimming a little bit. Just what was this week like for you?
It was a lot of work, more so than I thought. Everybody was all excited back at the station saying, oh, you're going to the Bahamas. You're going to enjoy pool and beach. You're going to come back so tan. And this is the first time I've had foot in a pool. I still haven't been in the ocean yet. I have walked the sand because for the most part, I was going from my room to the ballroom, which is where they played, to sometimes visiting a restaurant. And that was usually it was takeout too. So, it was very busy. Very busy.
At least you were getting food because I was eating.
Not always.
I was eating peanut butter and jellies in the room with Dr. Mike, and just haven't been eating enough.
No.
It's just been very difficult on that end. Switching to basketball, overall? You come in with some expectations. We know a little bit about this team. We haven't gotten a chance to see them up close and personal the way we did this week.
Yeah.
Just some of your overall takeaways of the Cats' 4-game stretch.
As a team, I think the speed was amazing. I mean, if the other team scores, ball comes right in and they're gone and they're setting up a play, and I love that. I love the speed that they played with. I think secondly, a defensive team. I mean, to be as long and lengthy as they are, they're creating all sorts of havoc for a lot of these teams. And especially, maybe they don't get the block shot the first time, but they're making the guy think about it and, making bad shots and all that. So I think that's the biggest thing I take away defensively. But then when you talk about individually, I think for me, it was a wake-up call to see Antonio Reeves, the way he shot, and obviously coming out as the MVP. I think Damian's much improved. I think Jacob's more focused. Oscar is Oscar. Savir, I think, has gotten faster. I think he looks really good. So I hope I'm not leaving somebody out, but that's the ones that stick out to me right off the bat. And to see CJ for the first time, that was really good too.
Yeah, Antonio is kind of the guy. He wins MVP. There's some talk about, how would he adjust transitioning from Illinois State to the SEC, to Kentucky. I thought this was just a tremendous performance from him, being able to see how he can create for himself, how he can score at all 3 levels.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk. We were there at film together where they were talking about his defensive intensity. Say, look, I know you weren't leaned on that quite heavily at Illinois State. We got to ramp that up here at Kentucky. So we know what he can be offensively. I think they're leaning on him a little bit more defensively. Want to ramp up those efforts. But what a performance for Antonio.
Yeah, I mean, he just has such a smooth shot from 3-point range, and we really didn't see him. We saw a little bit of driving and slashing, but I think we'll see more of that as the season goes on. And I think also the fact that you talked about defensively. I asked him after that 3rd game, you heard him talking about it. Have you worked on it? That was after the first game, right, that they talked about it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, I've been really working hard on getting better in game 2 and game 3. And I think he has. And if he can do that, continue to do that, you're going to see him on the court a whole lot more than you don't.
How fascinating is it that through all of these things, through all of our interviews, feels like Oscar Tshiebwe is a guy that we really haven't talked a whole lot about.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the beauty of this team, right? That there's so many options, so many scoring pieces, so many shooting pieces, that you have the reigning National Player of the Year. And really, he wasn't even the star of the show. He wasn't even one of the main options for this team.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of just, it's a testament to just how deep this team is, how many pieces this team has.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what makes this team potentially special.
I totally thought about that after that 4th game. I was like, I really haven't talked about Oscar that much because I guess he just was doing what he does, I mean, he got a double-double in that 4th game, like 10 and 14, and it didn't feel like it.
Yep.
And so he did the job that he always does, and I guess that's why we didn't talk about him much. And plus we were more curious about all of the other players,
And you know, in terms of behind the scenes access, this is just kind of an event that all the players were available whenever we needed them, or the coaches were available whenever we needed them. What was, I think, your favorite part of just kind of the behind the scenes? What was your favorite moment from this week in Nassau?
I think probably that team meeting that we saw where they were breaking down film, because for me that was so cool to hear coaching and you know, behind the scenes, and telling Antonio, you know, if you keep doing this, you're going to be stuck in pick and rolls all the time if you don't fix this. They're going to attack you every time on a pick and roll. And so that, to me, he was showing him how to do it too, you know. And then seeing them after a 50-point win throw up, the very first thing they threw up, bad defense. You know, that was amazing,
absolutely
right?
Fascinating.
I mean, you know, bad defense on a 50-point win. But that's how you get better. You know, you look at the mistakes, and you know, maybe next time you play that team, you beat them by 70.
I thought it was also fascinating. Chin Coleman brought up that wins, that the games are won and lost in the locker room, so that this event in particular, it was kind of a huge part of just the cohesiveness, bringing this team together, figuring out who they are off the floor. I mean, we know the individual players, obviously they're working through that with their individual scrimmages and things like that, but I think the time away from the floor, being here in the Bahamas, going down water slides, going out on the beach, some deep sea fishing trips, I thought it was really fascinating that Chin Coleman, you know, went out of his way to say games are won and lost in the locker room, and that this trip was a huge win in that regard.
And didn't you find it interesting that when you'd see him walking around the resort, that there wasn't just one player walking? It was always like 2 or 3 or 4, you know, at a time. I mean, that were together. And that's the thing, is that you do see they genuinely do like each other, and that the freshmen have come right in and gotten used to the veterans already, and they're all just sharing information, sharing fun, going out, like you said, on all the trips that they did, things they did here at the resort. So I think this does nothing but help them when they get back to school and start really practicing in October and November.
We'll wrap up with this. Your expectations going into this trip, what you expected to see the team to look like, you know, whether they were a title contender, Final Four contender, just how special this team can be.
Yeah.
Going into the trip, what were your expectations? And now leaving, have they changed? Have they? Are you higher on this team? Are you lower on this team? What are you thinking about the future of this team?
So I thought it could be a good team, because I think you're going to see 4 seniors start, and I think that I thought it was going to be good, but now, I mean, look, I know that the competition may not have been great, but I still think that you're going to see this team contend for a Final Four, because how they look in August is how they probably should look in January. And I think that's what impresses me the most, is that they just look like the freshmen. How long have they been on campus?
2 months.
How much offense have they really learned? How much defense have they really learned? And they're out there in Cason's like telling Damian or telling somebody, hey, go around this way on this play. They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that was
scary.
Yeah, I mean, the very first night when John Calipari, after the first game, I think it was a 28-10 assist turnover ratio, 28-8 or whatever it was, and we can't say what Cal said. Well, I guess we can say, "Are you kidding me?" Is what he said. But just how advanced this team is at this point in time. Cal went out of his way. He said, "This is this team looks like it would in January, and we're only on August 8th or 9th or whatever it was at that point." I think that's kind of the scary part of this team. There's just so many options, so many scoring pieces. You have scoring, you have rebounding, you have defense, you have the athleticism, you have the length. I really just struggled to find weaknesses on this team, and this, you know, I was kind of expecting maybe one player to be a little underwhelming, or you know, I didn't see anything like that.
No, I think anytime somebody came in, you could almost platoon.
I didn't want to say the P word.
I
didn't want to say it.
But you almost could, because there wasn't a drop-off. You're right.
Yeah, and I will wrap up with, I thought Adu Thiero, I think he deserves some credit. He was somebody that nobody even knew who he was when he got the scholarship offer from John Calipari. When he committed to Kentucky, he was like, all right, maybe this is a favor to his dad, maybe a long-term project piece, but he's growing. He's 6'6", 6'7" now. Doctors still project him to be maybe 6'10". I don't think the staff has any idea what to do with him exactly, because he's just such a a project unicorn of sorts. What is he going to be? 6'10"? Will he be a guard? Will he be a wing? Could you put him at the 4? Is he going to go through the Anthony Davis treatment? I thought that was my personal pleasant surprise, just how far along Adu Theo is.
No doubt, he was the definite surprise for me, just because I didn't know anything about him, and to see him come in and contribute like he did, I think that bodes well for the future of the team.
Well, that wraps us up here in the Bahamas. It's been a great week. We've had a lot of fun. Come back for more on the KSR Digital page. We are having a blast. Go Cats.